So hi folks, I'm joined by Tim Fisher, who along with Rob Lane is one of the driving forces behind the 28mm war game Darklands from Mierce Miniatures. So Tim, tell me a little bit about Darklands.
Well, basically it's a Dark Age game set in a alternative past, and if you think about all the monsters and creatures that are in our mythical history, it's bringing those alive and saying what if dragons were real, what if they were monsters that rose from the depths, things like that. What if werewolves, were a real thing, a real entity, and then it's putting them together in a big clash in our past, which is man versus beast or man versus beast man. It's very much a dark fantasy setting. There's no orcs, no elves, no dwarves, man and beast.
Cool, so you're currently running your third Kickstarter for Darklands, and what we're going to do is display some of the currently unlocked goals along the bottom of this interview so people can see it on the display. So tell me about the Kickstarters and what you hope to achieve with each of the ones that you've run.
Well, each Kickstarter is basically there to expand our range and what's available to each kindred. We've got 8 kindreds at the minute, and it's looking at each of those kindreds and saying we'd like to go with this extra unit, that extra unit, and expanding each kindred as much as we can to make them all as a playable force within the game. And also to get the rules out there, it allows us to do things like the template, the tokens. It's just a massive boost in helping the game get along maybe 2 years quicker than it otherwise would do.
So the Kickstarter that's running at the moment is rapidly approaching about 100k, and it's got 6 days left to go. How has this met your expectations?
It's about bang on target, to be honest. We're never. It's a premium product. It's resin, it's labour intensive, and it's not what you would call a cheap product by any means. We make it all in the UK. We make it all on site here, team of casters. So it's not something that we're just going to throw at people in a bid to just sell as much as possible. It's something that we're doing sensibly to keep a high quality premium product, which also means that you're never going to do like a $2 million Kickstarter. It's always, for us, going to be about £150,000. The good thing about that is it keeps it manageable for us as well, because that way we can do it all in-house. We're in control of our own destiny and fulfilment.
So looking at this Kickstarter and the previous ones that you've run, I think one of the things that makes you very unique is the constant communication and involvement with the Kickstarter comments, well beyond the funding period. You have regular updates every week, and the community seems to have come to look forward to the Friday newsletters that come out, revealing new concept art, sculpts, whatever material you've got available. Why have you taken this approach? Because surely it uses up a lot of your time that you could be spent developing the game.
It does, but the answer to that really is, why wouldn't we? We've got all these fantastically talented people that we've got working for us, the sculptors, the artists, the digital sculptors, sending us all this awesome stuff. And the first thing we do when we get it is go, oh, wow, like that. And then the second thing we want to do is wait till we show everybody. And the good thing about that is once a week, it's it's a few hours of our time just to say to everybody, look, this is what you made happen. And then the first thing people want to do is look at it. It's alright saying, oh, we'll do it every 3 months or something like that, but people feel left out. And after we build such a community on the Kickstarter, it's great for everyone to stay together. They stay together on our Kickstarter, they stay together on our forums, and it's just a way of keeping in touch with people and saying, look, this is what we're doing, this is what you made happen, and you're reaping the results.
So talking about the concepts, one of the strengths of Darklands appears to be its use of strong concept artists, sculptors and painters to really help produce some stunning miniatures. Without talking about specific favourites, who are some of the people that you're involved with that you're currently working with?
Concept artist wise, the first person I wanted to work with for us was Stefan Kopinski, who we're now good friends with. He's just awesome, he just gets it. He gets Darklands, he sucks what's in mine and Rob's heads, usually Rob's out, and then just turns it into an awesome concept form. We also work with a guy called Danny Cruz, who's now become another driving part behind the range. There's other guys we work with more recently, such as Sam Lamont and Daniel Warren on the concept front, who are just belting out some awesome concepts for us now, because now that the look is established, it's easy for us to get new people in and say, look, this is how we want it, sort of thing. And then sculptors, where do I start? We've got such a list of awesome sculptors. Alan Krasko, Daniel Cockasell, Jacques Alexandre Gilroy, Patrick Masson, Stefan Simon, just awesome people that if you're, if you've got your ear to the ground as far as who's who sculptors go, well basically we have got the who's who sculptors working on our range, because we want it to be the best. It's not the cheapest way of doing things, certainly not, but it's very much a case of if we want to do something, we want to do it right.
I think your website makes it very clear who did the concept art, who did the sculptures, whereas a lot of companies try to hide,
Yeah.
you know, who's involved with the creation of this stuff. So it's good that you're
Yeah.
actually being very clear and open on that.
I don't see the point in masking who's working for us. One, we want to shout it from the rooftops that these guys are working for us, they're the best. Two, we're very confident that they want to work for us again. All of the sculptors that we work with, that we're happy with working with, we have such an excellent working relationship with them that they put time to one side for us to work in our range. So it's not like we're going to lose them. And at the end of the day, you know, a rising tide raises all ships. If we're shouting off that this guy's great and somebody else uses him, well, good, because that means this guy's going to carry on being a sculptor for a living. It has to be viable, or he's not going to do it. And at the end of the day, if a really talented sculptor has to go and get a regular 9-to-5 job, he's not sculpting anymore. So let's keep all these sculptors in business, and you know, let's keep it excellent.
So does working with such in-demand sculptors and artists present issues in the delivery of the timing of the Kickstarters?
Usually we plan far ahead. I mean, currently my job is to you know, get all the sculptors. That's why we run the Kickstarter, is so I can approach sculptors and say, look, this is confirmed now. This is going to happen. You know, this piece I've approached for you to work in our range is now funded. It's going to happen. It's locked in and secure. So I can approach these sculptors months ahead of schedule, sometimes over a year, and say to them, okay, this is the piece I want you to do. It's all going to happen. It's, you know, it's definitely confirmed, and away you go. The only times it really slips is sometimes a sculptor might have another piece he's doing for somebody else that's been delayed for some reason, and it just has a knock-on effect further down the line. If he's a month behind on another piece because there's actually some changes or additions and things like that, well, it knocks back to us. So I mean, currently I think we've got an excellent record of keeping the sculpts on target. I think this last wave of werewolves that Benoit Cosset is sculpting are delayed now by a few months, and I think that's pretty much all, the only real delays we've experienced so far. And that's not too bad when you think of all the models we've funded over the last couple of years.
So one of the pledge levels that appears in all of the Kickstarters you've done so far is the You're the Descendant pledge. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's a way of, it's a pledge level that someone can back to basically put themselves in the game. It's called You're the Descendant because it might be one of their ancestors. So we've had one chap who's backed it, who's German, and he wants to have one of his German, you know, ancestors in the game, etc., and things like that. And it's a way for them to get an awesome sculpt of themselves, or it doesn't even have to be themselves. It could be, you know, somebody else, or they might pick a picture of like their granddad or something like that and put him in the game. It's up to them basically, and it's a way of getting these awesome sculptors who are very hard to get hold of to sculpt a unique piece of you, or you know, or whomever. The concept artist will do the piece. It can be approved by the customer, and then we take it to the sculptor. They get an awesome sculpt made of them. Anyone who's seen J.L.R. Longshaw's sculpt by Stefan Camisetta would agree with that. It's fantastic, and he also had a dog. And then what we do is they're also in the game. They become a part of Darklands. So it's adding you into our setting. So
that particular pledge level is quite a sizable investment for people. Have you been surprised by the uptake in it, and what's the feedback been like from the people who have actually taken that pledge you mentioned?
Yeah, everyone who's joined it so far has really enjoyed the process, because they also get to see some behind the scenes stuff. They get to see the work in progress. They get to for the concept art part of it, we're working with them and saying, look, okay, provide some photographs, some reference of what you would like to be like. We've had one guy who's had a pose of himself swinging a hammer and a sword in his living room around, and then he'd take a photo. We show that to the concept artist, who will then, you know, put that in art form. The chap can say, okay, that's how I want it, awesome, and then I'll take it off to the sculptor and away we go. I'm not really surprised that quite a few people have gone for it, because it's such an awesome thing to have done. And if let's face it, if you can afford it, I think it's every obvious dream.
So back to the Darklands, the game, how would you describe the scale of the battles? Are we talking about small skirmish level battles or massed army battles?
It can be what you want it to be, in that it's just going to take longer to do a bigger game, but the rule system can handle smaller to larger quite easily. At the moment, I think you can start off with 5 models at 499 gold, and you can go up to, I mean, we usually play games of either 999 or 1500 gold. And that allows us to have between, I think at that scale, between 20 and 50 models aside. If you go for massed infantry, obviously you've got more models. If you go for a relatively elite force that's got lots of monsters, infantry and monsters in, it's less models. Personally, I prefer to go for a more elite force because I'm a slow painter. So that way I can paint less models and get get stuff on the battlefield easier.
So what stage would you say you're currently at with the rules for Darklands?
Well, the quick start rules are finished. They're available for download. They're at the printers now. So as soon as we get those back, we'll be sending those out to the backers. The main rules, Rob's working on them now. To be honest, I won't like to say exactly where he is with them. But the good thing about the quick start rules being later from the printers is that Rob's had the opportunity to expand upon them. And basically, they're a good chunk of the actual rule set now. They're no longer a very quick 5 minutes. Rule set. It's very much, it's had months and months of labour put into it now. So we're at the point really where the main rules should be following on the heels of the quick start rules relatively quickly. It's just a case of formatting and graphic design and stuff.
Cool. So what would you say some of the key differences between Darklands rules and other systems that are out there?
I think it's a bit more interactive in that rather than, I play a lot of Warhammer, and in Warhammer it can be, I'm going to spend half an hour taking my turn, you spend half an hour taking your turn, and there's relatively little interaction going on at that point. Same with us in War Machine, sometimes you can just have dice rolled at you, and whilst you're sitting there just marking damage boxes off, it's a little bit more like Epic, if anyone's ever played Epic, in that you will activate a unit, I will activate a unit, and there's also an order system, so you give your units orders, and those orders can change during the game depending on what sort of tactical flexibility you want. So for me it's a bit more dynamic in that it flows a bit more from me to you, and also the way the rules work a little bit more interactive in that I will roll to hit you, and if I hit you, you can then get those dice, and then you get to do something during my turn. My activation, you can roll those dice and try to deflect my blows, and then you see who's took what damage, sort of thing. But for me, it's a little bit more interactive and social, as well as tactically flexible with the order system and the I go, you go. It changes things. Rather than me moving all my units, you moving all your units, you know that you can move those units, one unit and then the other one, relatively risk-free, because he goes there, then he goes there. In a I go, you go system, you move that unit up, it's isolated. It could get hit straight away on its own, so you've got to think a lot more and plan ahead a lot further.
Good. So, how far off competitive play for Darklands do you think you are?
Okay, this is a tough one because that all depends on how many people are picking it up and what they want to do with it. It's something that I would like to jump into straight away because my background as a gamer is very much as a tournament player. That's how me and Rob met, became friends, is on the tournament scene. I've got lots of friends on the UK tournament scene and a few in Europe as well, and it's a case of people are picking it up and playing it, then it happens sooner. Really, I think realistically probably look at 2 years. It's something I would like to do because I've organised tournaments in the past for Warhammer, and I would like to eventually start organising Darklands tournaments, but small steps. I think you're looking at a year away from maybe the initial one, and then 2 years away from actually getting some sort of foothold as a tournament system.
So one of the questions that people often ask is what's the entry level for the game? So how much sort of expenditure do you think there is to get a starter force?
I would advise that anyone who's looking to get into Darklands initially goes for at least 499 gold, and then it depends exactly what you want to spend that 499 gold within the game on. Looking at our demo games, intro games that we run, I think you're looking at, if you were to back our Kickstarter at the gold spot level, which is £100, which then gives you £110 at a discount via the Kickstarter, I think you could easily get a small starter force up and running for that, and then it all depends on where you want to go as far as adding stuff is. But I think £110 will get you a couple of units, a character and a small monster, which is what you need to get going.
So are there any current plans for a two-player starter force, or are we more likely to see a Kindred-based recommended starting list that people can then purchase?
At the moment, we have a plan to possibly go down the route of doing some Kindred-based starter sets, which is basically, it'll be a box, you pick it up, it'll be X amount of money, and that just gives you a box that you can pop down the table, glue it together, and start playing Darklands. Now that will be Kindred-based, because obviously there's 8 Kindreds who want to support them all. But when that happens, I'm not sure just yet. Obviously we've got this Kickstarter to sort out, and then lots of other things, but certainly that's something we would like to do.
So let's talk a little bit more about the current Kickstarter that's due to finish on the 23rd. The new Kickstarter this time around compared to the previous two is something called the Gold Spot with its gold reward bonus. Can you elaborate a bit on what the gold reward bonus is?
Yeah, the Gold Spot is it's set at £100, and then the way we're running this Kickstarter is basically saying the more you give us, the more we'll give you back. So if you give us £100, you'll get £110 to spend. And then for every £100 you spend beyond that, we'll give you another tenner. So if you spend £200 with us, you're getting £220 to spend on the actual Kickstarter itself. So the more you give us, the more we give you. And also at the gold level, it allows you access to certain other things like this whole hack mini that was recently given up to the first 400 backers at gold spot level. She was provided free to those guys.
So if I was to pledge £200, I would effectively get 220 worth of credit.
That's right.
And that credit would also be usable against a discount against some of the existing ranges.
Yes, you can spend on the Kickstarter, models available at Kickstarter, but the way we do our pledge manager is we basically take you to our website. We'll give you that £220 in your money back on our website and just say go for it. So from that point you can, it's just like being on the online store, you can choose anything from the Kickstarter that we've funded during this Kickstarter. So it's just a case of adding to your box, click, 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 add to your basket, and also it'll open up all of the existing miniatures that are currently on sale at 20% off the registered retail price. So recommended retail price, sorry. So from that point you can just go nuts on anything that you've seen before. So if you've seen Angus Leg and you would like Angus Leg at 20% off the recommended retail price, it's there.
Cool. So one of the other pledge levels that you have in the current Kickstarter is the all the units pledge, which seems like a big investment, but it actually seems to give you the best level of value as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's there again. It's a way of us saying people wanted to buy all of the units that we initially put up. That we wanted to fund the first 8 units up to £80,000. We put them up and we said to people, okay, if you want to buy them all at once, you can do. There's a pledge level. Yes, it's £400, which is a lot of money, but again, using our ethos of mantra of the more you give us, the more we'll give you back. That £400 gets you £440 worth of credit, and you also get a free free mounted Uhtred model, as well as any other freebies that the other gold levels will be entitled to. So again, it's a case of we recognise the fact it's expensive, but we also give you more stuff back in return.
So when this Kickstarter funds, what sort of timescales are we looking at for the fulfilment of the miniatures?
It does all depend on each individual unit or miniature. If you go on to the concept art we've got for each miniature, it'll say who's in the concept art, who we plan to have sculpted, and also what wave it will ship in. We've got various shipping waves at the minute, which all depends on basically the sculptor's timetable and when we can have it done. Some shipments are going to go this year, some will go early next year.
So what's next? Can we expect to see another Kickstarter later this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think people have probably seen the current plan, which is a Kickstarter every 6 months. This allows us to get one out of the way, be running one, and be planning the next one. It's something we can handle. We've proven we can handle now, and it's just a case of every 6 months. Then I know, as the guy that has to book the sculptors, that I've got a pot of money coming in that I can approach the sculptor and say, look, this is definitely going to happen. Away we go. And it's with all the competition for sculptors now, as something we talked about earlier, it's a case of us being more proactive, so making sure that those awesome sculptors that we've told the world about, and showing us some awesome stuff, that we're still giving them work from us as well. So it's basically a way for us to and expand the game. People want more units. Some people are going to want cavalry. I mean, you've only got to look at the Kickstarter comments, see people say, well, I want this, I want that. We're trying to feed as many of those hungry birds as we can, and that's all from Kickstarter, and it allows us to have 8 kindreds that have got fully playable hosts available for them, and also people keep talking about the Atalantes and the Iran, which are 2 other kindreds that we've talked about, but we don't really have many models for them yet. Sooner or later those guys are going to get expanded, and that'll all be done by Kickstarter.
So I suppose the last question is, who's better at the game, you or Rob?
Me. Undeniably me. I've beaten so many times in playtesting that it's unfair.
Right, well thanks very much for your time, Tim.
No,